Good evening. I'd like to call the Safety and Transportation meeting to order. My name is Tim Sullivan, the chair. And I have to read this out first. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and state of emergency, on March 12, 2020, Governor Baker issued an executive order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20. Pursuant to the order, public bodies are temporarily relieved from the open meeting laws requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This Safety, Security, and Transportation Subcommittee meeting will be held and will be accessible to the public via Brockton Community Access, Brockton Public Schools website at www.bpsma.org, YouTube channel, and Comcast Channel 12. The public can also access this meeting via the link www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. I have to do a roll call to accept the revised meeting rules. Some of these people aren't here. I'm going to add them anyway. Mayor and Chair Robert F. Sullivan. Mark D'Agostino, Vice Chair.
Yes. Oh, it looks like Tony's coming in and Tom is too.
Joyce Azak.
Here.
Let's accept the rules, the new revised.
Yes.
Cynthia Rivas Mendez. How you doing, Tony?
Hello.
Tom Minicello. Tony Rodriguez. This is to accept the revised rules of the open meeting law, Tony.
Yes.
Judy Sullivan. Timothy Sullivan says yes. Superintendent Michael Thomas.
Yes.
Now we do have to do a roll call to establish a quorum. Mayor Chair Robert F. Sullivan. Mark D'Agostino, Vice Chair.
Yes.
Joyce Azak.
Yes.
Cynthia Rivas Mendez. Thomas Minicello. Tony Rodriguez.
Yes.
Judy Sullivan. Timothy Sullivan, yes. Superintendent Michael Thomas.
Yes.
The agenda is as follows. Item 1 is 2020-2021 transportation. And item 2 is other business. Mr. Superintendent, would you like to frame item 1?
Certainly. So just to go over our non-net school spending for transportation, our ask to continue our current means of the means of transportation and the services we were providing when school closed on March 12th. That requires us to, we were running 49 buses, but a total of 55 were running because 6 of those buses are also used for the charter school, New Heights Charter School. So a total of 55 buses. And then we were running 55 vans. Next year's price, buses are going up to $84,286.80 per bus for the year. And then vans next year will cost $83,566.80 next year per van. The number of vans, we are requesting next year 55. That they do our special ed transportation in and around and outside the city, outside placement. And then the 55 buses are obviously the buses that service all our schools in tiers 1, 2, and 3. We got back the funding of non-net school funding from the mayor, and Aldo, just to be exact, we're about $1.4 million short.
Yeah,
So far.
we're about 1 million. Well, it was actually 1 million short of what we requested, I think. Hold on one. For a level budget, we're 1 million short, but we're about $1.4 million of what we need.
Yeah, because of the contract going up, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we're $1.4 million short. So that would fund us at 37 buses. The vans, because of the special ed requirement in the law, we would keep the same.
Correct.
You know, if we were to go back to school as we left it, obviously we would have to work on changing the walkouts for students from pretty much from K to 12 and look at the mandatory walkouts that the Department of Ed puts out that you have to bus. At this time, I'm hesitant to do that because we have no guidelines yet from the state. There are going to be guidelines forthcoming about what transportation is going to look like. It doesn't seem like we're going to be able to put 50 to 55 students on a bus. So we're going to have to pretty much change the way we do transportation. So I really don't want to say that walkouts would have to change on June 9th when we have so many guidelines that have to come in surrounding not only transportation, but surrounding how are we going to go back to school in September. It could require us to do 3 bus runs in the morning and 3 bus runs in the afternoon. So there's a chance by doing that, we would be able to save some buses. We would be able to keep walkouts the same. There's so many things up in the air that, you know, I don't think it's a good time at this point on June 9th to say, this is what we're going to have to do with the walkouts, because we just don't know what transportation is going to look like in September. There's also a survey that we will do that other school districts are doing, is pretty much ask parents if they plan on putting their students back on a van or a bus. Some parents are going to be hesitant to put students back on vans and buses. So we'll have to factor that in when we're putting our routes together and seeing how many buses we can run. So I'm really hesitant to pretty much say that, oh, we have to change the walkouts to, you know, this or that before we even have guidelines from the state of what transportation is going to look like. So, but right now, to be clear, we're about $1.4 million short of where we need to be if busing looks the same as it did in September as when we left on June 12th. And that's the regular ed transportation budget. That's not the special ed transportation budget with the vans was kept exactly the same per the law. We would go from 55 buses to 37. That's what we're currently funded for, 37 buses, the large buses.
One question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
The charter school, you said they have 6 buses. Are those being touched at all?
Yeah, it would change for everyone. So if we changed the charter school, we have to give the charter school the same services we offer our own students. So if we were to change the way we bus students, it would change for them as well. But they use 6 buses in the middle tier. That's where they use their buses. So even though it costs us 6 buses in the middle tier, we do use those buses for high school students in tier 1 and elementary students in tier 3. But there are 6 extra buses used because of the charter school, and with the charter school being obviously on the deep south side of the city. And they have opened another location on the east side of the city across from Brockton Hospital. So that would they have to take into consideration their second. And these 6 buses does take into consideration their new second location, which is on Center Street across from Brockton Hospital. I don't know the exact address, but we have to provide them the same exact transportation that we provide our own students.
Mr. D'Agostino, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. Aldo, can you clarify one thing for me? I just want to make sure that I have the number right. I heard, and maybe I misheard it, 1.4 million-ish, but then I thought at one point there was a 2 million number.
Sure. Right now, from the current budget, we're giving the city back $2 million this year that we haven't spent because we haven't been paying for transportation services this year. For next year, the budget does go up close to, the shortfall is close to 2 million, but we also, I counted into that, we got some McKinney-Vento reimbursement money. So that's why we're down around 1.4, 1.5 million in the shortfall. So the reason there's a shortfall is because the mayor did a 10% reduction on that budget. When he was told to go anywhere from 0 to 20%, he went for a 10% reduction on that budget. That's what we reduced it by. So, and as the superintendent said, we're looking for savings, special ed vans and some of the out of district costs that we have to also help minimize that for the fall. And we'll see, the closer we get to September, the better we'll know more guidance from the Department of Ed. And plus we'll do the surveys, as I said, with the parents to find out who's going to need transportation, who's going to drive their own kids. So.
Right. Okay. So that basically we're anticipating, we're owed about $500,000. And so we're anticipating that will come in and partially cure our shortage.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same. Every year we start off short in our bus budget, 500,000-600,000 every year. And as we get certain reimbursements from the state, the mayors would pass them along through to us. That's what we've been doing for years. So.
Right. And I want to make sure, because I think this is an important detail and I want to make sure I have it right, that, he cut 10% from the busing, and especially where they're looking at as much as 20 on all the other city side items. 10 was actually good, but he also, if I'm not mistaken, gave that enabled him to give us an additional money on the other end to reduce the number of teacher layoffs.
Exactly. It's easier to bring more buses in than it is to have to lay off teachers and then rehire teachers. So.
Right.
Goal
We save on workers' comp. Not workers' comp, unemployment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good.
I had one question, Aldo.
Me or Mike?
Mike Thomas? Mike,
Yeah, could I ask
Go ahead,
Aldo a
Mike.
question?
go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. So Aldo, just to try to be a little creative, I know that our plan was to purchase vans and buses
Yes.
to save us some money. And I know you work very closely with the Plymouth County Commissioners.
Yes.
So with the 90 million they have in COVID money. So I know that we had to scrap our plan to buy, we were going to try to buy up to 6 vehicles, 4 vans and 2 full buses. And if we needed buses to help with more social distancing, if guidelines come out, would the county entertain any of the 90 million for us purchasing our own buses, or would be out of the question?
Troy and I had a 1-hour conference call with them today. And I had a lot of these scenarios I threw forward. I guess they said I was creative. Because I by saying, we won't be able to have football and basketball games and have attendance. So I'd like to buy, cameras and put them all up on the walls and in the stadium so that parents can watch from home. And the response was, it's very creative, but if the COVID ban is lifted before December 31st, those items you bought are no longer reimbursable. So I guess we can try and make an argument that we'd like to buy additional vans or buses for the COVID issue, but then they're gonna say to us, if it's lifted, we're not gonna reimburse you for them. So anything.
All right, I'm just throwing it out there. 'Cause
Yeah,
I-
no, no,
I'd hate to see them give money back that, and us not look into this as maybe being, I know we, as a city, we couldn't buy it because obviously the mayor had to do everything he could with that money we were gonna use to buy buses and vans and had to put it back in so we could, obviously save layoffs on the school and city side, which obviously is absolutely the right thing to do. But I just asking to be creative. It doesn't hurt us to ask them if that's a possibility.
Well, I think if they saw the budget was at 55 buses and we said we need to go to 65, we'd like to buy 10, I think we could justify it, saying, well, the reason we need 10 is not because our population increased, but because of now the rules of social distancing. I think if we go down to 37 buses and then say, oh, we want to buy 10 to get back up to where we were, they're going to say, nah, you're just backfilling. So,
All right,
well,
it's just something to ask them. It doesn't hurt to ask.
right.
Mark, you had a question?
Although, let me make sure I understood what you just said correctly. So if they lift the ban, if before December 31st, the feds come out and say, as you were, go back to pre-COVID everything, then any money we spent that we are putting in to be reimbursed for and haven't been reimbursed for already, that would be null and void?
No, because as long as we show that we spent that money for this purpose and it's complete, all the masks we're going to buy, they're going to be in the warehouse because we're going to use them all year long.
Right.
It's done, it's paid for, it's over. So again, that's why I said the cameras, they said, at first they thought, yeah, we could probably do that. We could probably allow that to go through. So make your proposal, but keep in mind that if you buy them, what they were saying was, if you buy them in October and in November, before we pay you back on them, they lift the ban, then you might not get it. So it's the kind of thing where I would time it so that it's towards November.
Well, that's what I mean. So we got to be very careful about if we do something related to COVID, when we spend the money and how quickly we put in for that reimbursement, and we got to get it right in.
Right.
Because if in the midst of that, the feds say, hey, we're all set, don't worry about it,
Right.
then they don't have to reimburse us.
Yeah, right. Yes and no. I mean,
Okay.
I think I can argue that we would never have spent that money had it not been for this. I talked about the 16,000 laptops, and they feel that's very strong because we never would have spent that money if it wasn't for this remote learning issue that we have to be prepared for. So
Okay.
that's when I moved into I need to buy cameras. So.
Okay. All right.
I had a question myself, Aldo.
Yes.
With the closing of with the opening of North Junior High, there's
Yeah.
5 buses. Is that 37 included that
It is.
5 buses as well?
It is included, yes. We'll be saving 5 buses in doing that. So that's included in the savings that we've calculated.
So if we didn't close North Junior High, this number would be 32?
No, you would need 37 plus 5. You would have needed
Okay.
42.
Yes, so what would happen, Mr. Sullivan, we would have went up, we would have needed more buses instead of we would have needed 5 more.
You got all
Okay.
those kids that can walk to school in that area now.
Joyce, was your hand up?
Oh,
I'm
yes.
much.
Quick question. So where we were able to save so many buses with the reopening of North with just 1 grade, are we able to do that with our middle schools? That, North, we were able to save 5 buses by going to the community, going to the neighborhood schools, going to the neighborhood and getting our students from there. Are we able to try to do that with the other middle schools?
Yeah,
To
so
try to keep them to neighborhood where they're starting off in middle in 6th grade? It's not
They-
like they're in elementary and we're pulling them out of elementary to start a new elementary school. Here, they're going into a brand new school. Are
so
we able to tweak those numbers?
So basically, we do assign middle school students to the neighborhood schools because
Okay.
the least amount of buses are needed in tier 2. That's why sometimes we're able to absorb, that's why we made the charter school go into tier 2. The number of buses is driven by the high school and the elementary schools. High school because it's on one side of the city. So the number of buses we always go by, the most that are needed are for high school and for elementary. Middle school students, other than the TAG program, the bilingual program, and some of the special ed programs, other than that, all the kids are assigned to their neighborhood school in middle school. And that's why we need the less amount of buses for the middle school tier 2. It's the high school and the elementaries that actually drive the number of buses you need.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I know you and Mark D'Agostino talked to the mayor. And what come out of that meeting? What do you need from us tonight?
Well, basically would just be to this, as a report of the transportation subcommittee is that we would pass this on to the full school, to the finance, and then to the full school committee meeting, acknowledging that we are, Aldo, what's the exact number? 1.4? Hold on. So as Aldo's looking for that, Mr. Sullivan, what I'm trying to say is that basically we want to make it clear coming out of this committee that we are short 1.4 and what the exact number is. And then when will send a letter to the city council from the school committee acknowledging that, our non-net school busing budget is short by, $1.4 million. And to make it clear that that's the shortfall. And we are awaiting guidance from the Department of Education and from the state of what transportation and also what school is going to look like when we open. So at this time, we don't know how that's going to affect the walkouts, but it could. And we need to see how that happens throughout the summer. But we need to make it clear that we are short on this budget because there was a lot of question around that last year. And we do not want that to be the case this year. We want it to be clear when we're doing our presentation in front of the city council that the non-net budget is short by 1.4 million.
Right, 1,431,400.
There you go.
And if I can jump in also, so everybody knows, this issue of being short on buses is also addressed in the I guess you could call it a summary or cover letter that Aldo and I have been working on, that I'm sending, on behalf of the committee. And this is one of several items that we're itemizing to draw their attention to, but this is definitely going to be there, or it is there as an item. So, again, we'll state it here in this meeting. They'll get a letter independently, plus they're going to get that summary letter. So it'll be very well documented that we've made this known.
Sorry.
Ms. Azak?
I apologize. Earlier, I lost the connection for a couple of minutes. Can we just go over what we're required? So as far as I know, we're required to provide busing for elementary school, and then middle school and high school. Is that something that we just offer to them?
The Department of Ed, the regulation is you have to bus students K to 6.
Okay.
And you can go out as far as 2 miles. Obviously, when we buy the buses, we own them for all 3 tiers. So obviously we would use those buses for high school because you have sixth grade in, you know, that's kind of old language when a lot of districts had K to 6 schools and then 7 and 8, the way most of us went to school, the old junior highs. The language hasn't changed, so it is K to 6, and you can go out as far as 2 miles. That's the limit, that the least you have to do. But because we own the buses in a tiered system, you obviously would use those buses for high school. In sixth grade, being in middle school, you would use them for 7th and 8th graders as well. So that's the minimum you have to do, is K to 6, 2 miles out from the school.
Okay.
You do not have to bus 7 through 12, but you know, obviously we do, because we own the buses for 3 tiers. So we've always obviously bused K to 12.
No, thank you for clarifying that. Because a lot of parents don't realize that. Especially, you know, in September, I know I get a lot of phone calls at times. So we always try to accommodate and do the best that we can. But just so they know that, you know, by law, we're only required up to 6th grade. Now, the other thing is you had mentioned that they're gonna survey some families and just see, because a lot of people are really not, they either take the bus in the morning or afternoons. You know, our buses are much lighter. A lot of kids that do qualify end up getting dropped off at school. So not every kid takes advantage of qualifying to take the bus. When is that deadline? I mean, that might help us if we know who's, you know, a lot of parents are probably going to end up wanting to take their kids in the morning if they could do it and it's not a hardship if they're working. Do you think we'll know those numbers by the end of June?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll know those numbers by early July.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I hopefully
Mike, what do you
by,
need? 2 motions from us?
Al, the way
Mike,
we
you
need
need
for
2
a
motions
motion.
from us to walk out?
No, I don't think we do anything with the walkouts at this time, because I think it's premature on June 9th to say that we're going to change walkouts when we don't know what the regulations look like. I think we acknowledge that we're you know, that we're 1.4 and change short of the number needed to keep busing how we had it when we left school in FY20. And then we're clear that we're short. And I think that it's a work in progress of what the transportation is going to look like, because I don't really want to send panic saying, you know, we have to increase the walkouts, because it's kind of premature without guidelines of not only what transportation needs to look like, but also what school might look like. And when we go back, I just think once we need to wait to see what those regulations are before we determine the walkouts and how many buses we need. And again, by that time, hopefully, you know, some more money's coming in and, you know, we'll be back to level on our busing budget. I think the only motion is, Al, that we make the motion to approve what the mayor has allocated, acknowledging that it's, you know, $1.4 million and change short of what we need.
Yes, and you just move it either favorably or unfavorably to the, or you can move it to the finance meeting or to the school committee meeting.
Mike, what I was told of what I heard was that if we cut the buses 10% tonight, that there's a good chance they'll come back by September.
That's the hope, with money coming in and savings. And, you know, again, we have been short on busing in the past. It's usually about 600,000. And we always, you know, as McKinney-Vento money comes in and circuit break it, we usually are able to make that money up. City council has used some money to fund for us as well, bring the buses back. I just think, again, we've always short because we've always tried to save positions, and you don't have to lay off buses. You don't have to pay unemployment to buses. So I think especially this year, I think it's premature to change walkouts or do anything without knowing what the regulations are going to be for returning to school.
Do you need a motion, Mr.
Joyce, you had
Sullivan?
a question?
No, I
Yes,
didn't know
we
if you
do.
needed a motion.
Yes, we need a motion.
Okay, so a motion to approve what the mayor's allocated, acknowledging that 1.4 million in some odd change. Aldo, if you have the exact figure.
1,431,400.
Anything else to that motion, or is that sufficient, Mr. Petronio? Is that good?
You're just moving that request favorably to the, I would say, the Finance Committee.
Okay,
Because really, it's the Finance Committee that'll actually talk dollars, where right now you're talking more policy or changes.
Tony?
We need a second on that motion.
We just needed a second. I
Second.
don't think Tim can, yeah.
Let me do a roll call on that motion. And I'm well aware all these people aren't here. Mayor Chair Robert F. Sullivan. Mark D'Agostino, Vice Chair. Joyce Dazak
Yes,
on the Cynthia Rivas Mendez on the motion.
Sorry, I just got in, not too sure what we're voting on.
well, it's a subcommittee.
Yeah, so I don't vote on the transportation one.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm just reading out the roll. Your name is on there, Cynthia.
Oh, hi,
Thomas
yes,
Minatello,
here.
Tony Rodriguez,
Yes.
Judy Sullivan, Timothy Sullivan, yes. Superintendent Michael Thomas,
Non-voting member, yes.
motion carries. It was unanimous on the subcommittee. Item 2, other business. Any other business to come before the committee?
Mr. Sullivan, I have no other business tonight for the Transportation and Safety Security Subcommittee.
Anybody have any other questions?
Mr. Rodriguez.
Mike, where are we with the school
Tony,
police
we have
officers? Go ahead.
Say that again, Mr. Rodriguez?
Where are we with the some of the officers that are supposed to be transferring downtown? Are they
There's
staying
two.
on board?
Right at this time, they are still with us. They have not called for the civil service list yet. I can find that out from Chief Gomes to see when that's supposed to happen. It hasn't happened yet, and I'll find out from Chief Gomes or the mayor when they plan. But there are 2 Brockton School Police officers who are scheduled to go over to the Brockton Police Force because they're high on the civil service list. But I want to say that's supposed to happen before the end of the summer, but I can get an exact date. I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, should we pencil in another meeting? Or is it too soon? Should we put something on the calendar as a follow-up?
Like, what has to happen? This has to go to the city council as well?
Full budget, the non-net and the net school budget gets voted and goes to the city council. We'll finalize that tomorrow night. And then once that goes to the council, I think we can, wait a few weeks to see where, see if there's any guidelines that come in and maybe have a meeting, and we could schedule one for later this month or early in July.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that okay with you, Joyce?
Oh, yeah, no, it's
Later this
fine. It's
month or
just,
early July?
yeah, no, that's fine. It's just our calendars are gonna get busy. So I just wanted to make sure that if we had to pencil in a date. Because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of meetings once we know what's required of us from the state, so.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, actually, one last thing.
Any other questions for this sub?
No, I'm good. Never mind, I'm good.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Tony?
In a second.
Second.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
read off the names again. I know some of them on here. This is to adjourn. Motion is to adjourn. Mayor and Chair, Robert F. Sullivan. Mark D'Agostino, Vice Chair. Joyce Azak.
Yes,
The motion is to adjourn. Joyce,
yes, oh, to adjourn, yes.
Cynthia Rivas Mendez,
Yes.
Thomas Minicello. Tony Rodriguez,
Yes.
Judy Sullivan. Timothy Sullivan. Yes. And that meeting is now adjourned.